Hello, everybody. It's Mike Young with Mike Young Real Estate. Thanks so much for watching. I am going to do a video, which I'm sure is going to be controversial. It's like a lot of videos I've done over the last 6 months where I have as a realtor have been kind of dissuading people from buying homes in this strong record sellers market. And we'll get into some more of the details on why, because of what I think is about to happen here in this video. Before I do, let me first start and say this is for informational and educational purposes only. This is just for fun. I'm just some random guy on the internet, and I am not giving financial advice. So let's get right into it, and let's talk about securities-backed securities-backed lines of credit. All right. If you don't know what that is, go watch my other video where I talk about securities-backed lines of credit, SBLOC for short. It's kind of like a HELOC, which is a HELOC. Is that right? Home equity line of credit. That's right. I got it right the first time. But this is a SBLOC. You can't even say it. SBLOC. You can't say it like HELOC. It's SBLOC. Securities-based lines of credit. Hardly anybody knows about it, but they do now. And this may crash the market. Now, everyone's like, well, the market is not like it was in 2008. There was a different time. We were handing out loans to people who shouldn't have had houses. Yes, yes, yes. Actually, I've already found that in reviewing a lot of stuff I've seen as news items online, that people have already forgotten history. Let me refresh your memory, first of all, with how things went in 2006, 7, and 8. Actually, even 5, 6, 7, 8, in that time frame. I got my license around that time. And right when I got it, I started out my career here in real estate by telling people not to buy houses, which is kind of ridiculous, I know, if you think about it. But that's what I was doing for many clients. So it depended on the client. Okay, like I say, in this market here, I'm gonna make a separate video about it. Who should be okay with holding houses now, and who should be okay with buying them? You got to have at least a 5 to 10 year time frame and stable employment if you need employment in order to hold onto that house. So that aside, back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8, people were buying houses, and guess what? There was a bank around there back then called Washington Mutual, WAMU. That's what they went by, and they had these crazy loans. I couldn't believe them when I saw them, because I knew people who were buying houses out of state as investment properties using these loans. First of all, no doc loans, no documentation, was all over the place. It was like the honor system, okay, for getting houses. Like, do you own this? Do you earn this amount of money? Yes. Okay, well, then here's your money. Here's your $500,000. We don't know if you can pay it back or not, but you told us you could. And of course, those blew up. That's one level of messing up. But this was like a whole other level. It was basically interest only and negative amortization loans. All right. They don't even exist anymore, at least as far as I know, unless people have brought them back. But what was happening, if you think about it, it's the same thing that's been happening in this market. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I have to buy a house now, because if I don't buy a house, I'll never be able to afford to buy a house ever again. Because of why? Because the prices are going up so fast. They're going up 20% a year for the last 2 years, at least, depending upon the market, of course. I'm in the Raleigh Triangle market. You see behind me, they've been going up faster than that in that market, okay? So it's totally unsustainable. I've made videos about this already. But what was happening back in 2005, 6, 7, and ultimately 8, when things completely crashed and almost destroyed our entire economy and almost everything went bankrupt, is that people were all rushing in. Everyone was rushing in, gotta buy. So we got these new loan products from Washington Mutual, WAMU. And guess what? They're smart. They're so smart. They think that real estate values and the values of homes have been going up fast, which we know they have back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. And they know that they're going to keep going up, or at least they're not going to go down. They could never go down. They're just going to keep going up, or they're going to level off at some point, right? But either way, I'll never be able to afford to buy a house again. So I got to buy one right now using one of these mortgage products. Of course, I tried to talk people out. I could not talk people out of them. They went bankrupt on these loans, and you're soon going to find out the details as of why. Because as you already know, spoiler alert, you probably already know, the values didn't keep going up. The values didn't just level off. The values dropped, and in many cases, incredibly significantly. I was buying houses for $11,000, $14,000 for entire houses and the land and everything. You can't even buy a front door for that nowadays at Home Depot, I don't think. At least not the way a supply chain is right now in 2022. So what happened was this didn't last. Now, why didn't it last? What were the technicalities behind why this collapsed? Because we knew it was just you look back at it now, hindsight's always 2020. You knew that this thing was going to collapse and everyone was going to lose money, or at least people that walked into the last year, the greater fool thing. There's always a greater fool until all of a sudden there isn't anymore. And then all those people just lose everything. Now, why? Well, those loans were structured in a way where they assumed, like we talked about earlier, whenever you assume, that's a problem right there, that the values were going to continue to go up or they were going to level off. But they did have language in the mortgage papers. If you read the 2,000 pages of paperwork that seems like nobody ever reads, but I always tell all my clients to read all of it. Don't even sign until you read all of it. But of course, nobody read all these papers. They said that if the value drops below a certain LTV, all right, then, well, it's not going to be negative amortization, because negative amortization, believe it or not, gives you an incredibly small payment. It gives you a payment that's lower than interest only, because they're assuming that because the values are going to keep going up, well, we can just give you less than interest only. We can give you, you can pay like 80% of the interest you would owe on that, and the other 20 will go towards building up the balance on your mortgage. Believe it or not, that's how it works. Build it up, because, well, that's how that house is going to keep going up at 20% a year anyway. Who cares? You'll just be even off, even, right? Even. It didn't work out that way. So first step is they cut that back. Well, you can't do negative amortization anymore because the values have stopped going up. So you have to pay the interest only, which is, of course, a lot more money. And you didn't qualify off the interest only. You qualified off the negative amortization. So let's say the negative amortization was, let's just say, $1,000 a month. Well, the interest only is $1,500 a month. Okay. I know you didn't qualify on $1,500 a month, but now that's what you have to pay, because that's what it says in the paperwork. And then, of course, if it reaches another threshold and the value drops even more, because they're watching the value of your home, because everything's connected and computerized, and I think Zillow started around there. They had all this stuff connected. You know, all the tax records, tax departments are all connected through the internet now. They, sorry, looking at my notes. What happened was, if you got below another threshold of value, then you had to pay the regular loan, right? You had to pay not only the interest and the full interest only, but you had to pay the interest and the principal, because you got to start paying down that principal because the value of that asset or that house has dropped. So you can imagine the kind of turmoil people went through just watching this thing unfold, cracking all around them and crumbling, and there was no way to get out of that, okay? Because then you'd have to dump your house, and people were dumping them house. There were foreclosures everywhere. You know, I mean, it was just a downward spiral of the market. It didn't take that long for it to happen. It was just a worst case scenario. And of course, I predicted it. Okay, not to say that I'm any kind of clairvoyant person here or psychic. It was obvious to me that that was not sustainable. When I saw the products that they used in order to obtain these homes, again, no one's talking about these products right now. Again, I don't know why. Either people are too young to remember them. I'm 52, by the way, or they just, I don't know, they just forgot, because they don't exist anymore. Washington Mutual as a company is gone, as far as I know. If they're still here, please let me know. But I think they're gone. The whole company went just dissolved. They were such a wreck. And of course, that wreck, that train wreck, at first it was a slow moving train wreck, because right now we're in a slow moving train wreck in the market right now. Okay. And it became a very rapidly moving train wreck and just almost imploded the entire economy. Really, the economy would have imploded. Everything would have collapsed truly, unless the Fed stepped in and started printing money and bailing everybody out, which they did here in COVID too. So now we got that going. So see, there's a lot of similarities to 2008. Now, then you might be saying, Mike, well, Washington Mutual doesn't exist anymore. Negative amortization loans don't exist anymore. You know, no doc loans don't exist anymore. Why in the world would this ever unfold in the way that you're talking about here in 2022? Well, let me explain. There is a product that's relatively new that you probably don't know about, which you probably didn't know about till like 2004, 2005 of that last crash, that I'm going to tell you about now, and I have a whole video on it. Okay, it's called the Securities-Based Lines of Credit, SBLOC. Now, just like those negative amortization loans allowed an individual to gain a tremendous amount of leverage, and it was the more they could get of those mortgages, the more leverage they got, because a lot of those were no doc, which is crazy if you think about it. Well, how could someone get tons of cash now and be buying all these properties with all this leveraged money that might be tied to something that might drop in value, that might trigger this downward spiral of an avalanche that you're talking about? Well, this is it. It's a securities-based line of credit. I have a whole video that explains it, but the bottom line, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. It's going to go into the basics. It is a line of credit that is not based on the value of your home, because the last stuff was that last leverage mess was based on the value of your home asset. This is based on the value of your stock holdings. Now, it is May of 2022 right now, and we are already starting to see cracks all around us. The slow-moving train wreck has begun. Like I said, I predicted this like 6 months ago, and I told people, and people were laughing at me. All the other realtors were like laughing at me. They probably still are, some of them, who they'll be laughing all the way to their own bankruptcy probably at this point in time, or not even be able to find a job, because the job market is great right now, but it's not going to last because of what's about to happen and what is happening right now, how it's unfolding. And this is the secret sauce as to what is going to cause it this time, is these SBLOCs, securities-backed lines of credit. So the super wealthy are who is using this. Not only the super wealthy, but also these super large investment firms like Vanguard, BlackRock, other companies are buying up crazy amounts of property. If you look behind me all around here in Raleigh, Metro area, Triangle, Durham, Chapel Hill, Wake Forest, who's buying a third of the houses, and in cash? The investment companies. Where are they getting this money from? Do they have their own money printers like the Fed has? No. Then where are they getting the money from? Well, it's not just, it actually could be the super wealthy too in addition, but let's just talk about the investment companies for a moment. They are diversified. They're very well diversified. So they have a very big stock portfolio, very valuable. And like I used in the last video where I explained the SBLOCs, let me just use $1 million, which is very low from the amount of money that's actually being transacted and being gathered and used in purchases. But let's just say $1 million. So let's say that BlackRock has $1 million, we use Tesla for, of Tesla stock. Well, they can get from most banks a loan off of that stock portfolio as long as they hold on to it, all right, and don't sell it. And any individual could do this too, by the way, as long as you have enough money. But it has to be a certain LTV. They're not going to give you negative amortization loans on your stock like they did crazy back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. They are going to give you like 60% of your holdings. So if you got $1 million, they'll give you $600,000 in cash to spend as you want with almost no closing costs and almost no time at all. They just got to see your account and here's the cash. It's like printing money. Then they take the cash and they use it to buy houses. And of course, you know, if you're a regular buyer, you cannot compete against these people. They just have, it seems like, unlimited amounts of cash. So what they're doing is they're leveraging their stock holdings unless they sold them. Okay. Now, if they were really, really smart, maybe they sold them by now, but I have a feeling there's a tremendous amount of leveraging going on here. Just like the super wealthy, they do this so that they don't have to have an actual income, because this is money you're getting from a loan. It's not considered income. It's not taxable. And it's at a significantly lower rate, usually 1 to 2% lower than the best rate you could possibly get on a home mortgage. So it makes sense financially in a lot of ways. The way it doesn't make sense is that it's a tremendous amount of leveraging. And if we get into a situation where stocks start to drop, which they are, and if you look at some of the tech companies out there in the last 6 months, some of these stocks have dropped 80% in value. This stuff works just like it did back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8 with the negative amortization loans, where if you drop to a certain LTV, all right, they're going to call and make you basically, in this case, either sell your stock at a low price, and usually they're holding on to it because they think the stock is going to go up higher. They would have already sold it if they didn't think so. Either sell at a low price so the bank will do that automatically, or you have to come up with the cash instantly. Either way, you can see the propensity here to create some kind of significant downward pressure on prices and a potential downward spiral in the markets in general if a lot of this stuff is used to purchase real estate, which it has been. So this is the formula for disaster. This is my concern about the markets moving forward. This has nothing to do with politics, okay? Because I know a lot of people out there right now, especially in this market, they're like, oh, well, it's simple supply and demand on one end, and on the other end, it's like, let's go, Brandon. Okay, like because Joe Biden has ruined our 401ks and everything else, you know, because people are starting to see the stock values drop. But what I'm concerned about is the real estate market, and this is not political. Just like last time, when it collapsed, it wasn't political. The collapse affected everyone equally. All right. And that's going to happen this time too. So I will do another video where I explain who I think should hold on the real estate. And by the way, I'm holding on the real estate. I'm not over leveraged, but there are plenty of people that are. And unfortunately, even if you're not over leveraged, it's going to affect the value of your real estate that you have. So we're going to talk more about that. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever taken out one of these securities-backed lines of credit? You know, anybody that has? Are you familiar with these large investment companies? Where did you think they were getting all their money from? Think about it. Where did you think they were getting all their money from? People aren't talking about this in the news. They're not. But they will if it collapses. They'll go over it like a fine-tooth comb, and then they'll forget about it like they already forgot about how we got in the mess between 2005, 6, 7, and 8 with those negative amortization loans. I have not heard anybody in the news talking about that. Have you? Think about it. Nope, they don't talk about it. So this is what's going to happen. It's unfortunate. I don't know how bad we're going to get hit, but in some level, this is going to really hurt the value of real estate moving forward in the short term. So give me your predictions below. What kind of percentage drops do you think you're going to expect? Where are you watching this from? Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.